Are you gonna run electricity to them?
I am not. I'm doing all solar. The only thing I won't be able to do is a generator, but I do have one I could hide around the back and put in a couple small AC units.
Hmm.
A couple of those little 800 water rolling ones or something. So I haven't
Right.
decided on that. And then I need to buy one for myself because I let mine go with the RV,
Oh,
and
okay.
I need two in the house. So I'm going to buy one for me, and then I'll test it and to see if my solar system can run it for a few hours.
Ah,
So
okay.
at 800 watts, I'm hoping it can, and
Right.
so we'll see. All right, hang on. Here it comes.
Okay.
Counties to only one drop box inside its election office, with two people from different political parties monitoring the box. I'm Catherine Carley for Pacifica Network and Public News Service. Find our 8 trust indicators to support transparency and accuracy at publicnewsservice.org.
Good morning. It's KCHW 102.7. You got Scott and Mike on a Wednesday. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Bentz.
Hey, well, welcome back to you too in this, I would say, snowy morning, but not too
All
cold.
right. We got a
Yeah,
big
winter is still here.
we got a big show today. Going to cover a bunch of stuff this morning in the first segment, and then in segment two today, we've got some guests coming in. Larry Fetterman, and tell us a little bit about what Larry's doing, Mike.
Okay, all right. Well, it's Larry Fetter without the MAN on the end of it.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I probably did that,
Okay.
because this Fetterman guy's been in the news from your part of the world,
Okay.
but anyway, yeah, Larry is he's a former graduate from Lincoln Junior or Lincoln High School, or not Lincoln, Jenkins High
Yeah,
School.
it's because we were talking about me in Maine. That's all right.
Yeah, that's
We're
right,
both confused
exactly.
this morning.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, come on, Michael, get the fog out of your brain.
All right.
Went on to Eastern Washington, and he's actually a expert in Parks and Recreation. And he moved back to Chihuahua and has, uh, one of his passions is actually right up your alley, and that's to figure out activities for kids. And one of the things that I didn't realize that Chihuahua, I don't believe, has ever had a Parks and Recreation quote unquote department. It's always kind of been under Public Works. And so he was approached, or he approached the mayor about maybe doing some work for the city and taking his expertise, which is Parks and Recreation, and we'll let him talk about his background when he comes on. But bring that to the forefront to look at things like a pool and trails and different things that are in the park to see what the feasibility of getting that done. And what jumped out to me as I read through the stuff and I've met him is he is I don't know if he's an expert. He definitely has experience in getting grants.
Okay.
And as you well know, the small communities, Tooele being one of those, really to get these things done has to do it through grants because it just doesn't have the tax base to support it. So anyway, I'm involved. I've seen him and talked to him through the chamber. And that's how he basically heard about this fantastic radio show every Wednesday morning. And he contacted me and said, "Hey, I'd like to
Nice.
get on the radio."
All right. So we'll have
So
him about 8:05 today, and
correct.
expecting that to be maybe a longer interview. And we're going to follow that up at 8:45 in the second segment with Catherine Patton from the Chihuahua Center for the Arts and the Park Avenue Players to talk about a new play they're going to roll out and do auditions for, 9 to 5.
Yeah,
The
I
old
mean,
the old
Nine to
Dolly
Five, the
Parton hit.
musical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite shows.
Mm.
I've always enjoyed it, and the character actors that are in there, and I mean, there's nothing better than Lily Tomlin, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
So that'll be a fun one. And as I said, she will join us around 8:45 this morning. Quick check of our weather. You got a cold one, as Mike said when we started. 22 degrees for a high today. 7 for an overnight low. Let that water drip. Going to be a little worse tomorrow. 18 and 0. And then you'll start to warm up. Tomorrow's going to be partly cloudy, mostly sunny for Friday, 25 and 7. All the way back up to 34 by Saturday, 35 by Sunday, and 39 by Monday. But Sunday and Monday have a lot of snow in the forecast. And
Oh, really?
yeah, wet stuff's going to keep coming at you next week. So a couple cold days, and then at least it'll warm back up. For breakfast and lunch today, the kids, let's see, it's a Wednesday. They've got pancakes, sausage, fresh fruit, fruit juice, and their choice of milk. And then for lunch today, we are looking at mac and cheese, little maple bars, which me and Mike could use right now, fresh veggies, carrots, green beans, fresh fruit, and a choice of milk. Although that's in neither one of our diet plans.
Exactly. Now you just made me hungry.
I know. I was already hungry. That's when I saw maple bars. I went, oh. So I haven't had. It's my favorite form of pastry is a maple bar, and I bet you I haven't had one in at least 5 years. That's what a good boy I am. So.
You know what my favorite pastry is?
What's that?
Any kind of fritter, like blueberry fritter, apple fritter, peach fritter.
Get him a fritter, stat.
That's right. Yep.
Right.
And, that's what Chihuahua needs. Somebody needs to come in and open a donut shop.
All right. And I probably shouldn't have done breakfast because there is a 2-hour late start today, and they typically cancel that breakfast on late starts. Deer Park having a late start as well due to yesterday's snow. Let's see, the Forest Bird Charter School closed. Lakeland District is closed. The Loon Lake School District 2 hours late. Mary Walker 2 hours late. Meade 2 hours late. Let's see if we got anything else. Valley School District 2 hours late. There you go. And I don't think we shoot far enough out to Quincy, but they're 2 hours late too. So those all off the KXLY site. All right. Before I do some news headlines, Mike, you had some dad jokes you didn't get to do last week, and
I did. Yeah, you're right. In fact, it's kind of one of those aha moments. You wake up at 3 a.m. and says, "Darn, I didn't do my dad jokes."
Ruined it. All right.
I ruined it. Anyway, so Scott.
Yes.
Why do bananas wear sunscreen?
They don't want to brown. No.
You're getting close.
Okay.
To stop them from peeling.
Oh.
Okay, so staying on that food theme, why are eggs no good at telling jokes?
I don't know.
Well, they keeps them from cracking up.
Ooh. We didn't say they'd be good dad jokes, did we? No.
No. This next one I think is one for the records.
Okay.
What do you call a cow on a trampoline?
Ooh. Something beef.
No.
No?
A milkshake.
Oh, man.
All right.
Bad.
And
really
last,
bad.
to take people out of the pain, is why do bees have sticky hair?
I don't know.
Because they use honeycombs.
Oh. Wow. You were upset about not getting to deliver those, huh?
So this morning, my dad jokes were fruits and vegetables and animals.
Okay. All right.
Although, is an egg a vegetable or a fruit?
That would be protein.
Right. So what would you call it?
And
Kind of
really
depends on
qualify
whether it came before the chicken or after the chicken.
Yeah, you can't call it meat, but maybe later
Right.
you could. Huh.
Exactly.
It's too early for that, Mike.
Okay.
What would you call it?
I would call it protein.
All right. I would call eggs delicious. It's
Me too.
One of my favorite foods. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
A few news headlines before we let Mike take off and roll. Biden taunted Putin from Poland. Say that 5 times really fast. Uh-huh. Basking in the afterglow of his well-received unexpected trip to Kiev, President Biden spoke from the heart of Eastern Europe on Tuesday, telling Russian President Vladimir Putin that he had profoundly miscalculated the extent of Ukrainian bravery and Western resolve. He said when President Putin ordered his tanks to roll into Ukraine, he thought we would roll over, and he was wrong. This all happened at a speech in front of the Royal Castle in Warsaw, the Polish capital. Biden gave the address one day after he made a first visit by a modern U.S. president to a war zone where U.S. troops had not been deployed. In Kiev, he met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and paid tribute to fallen Ukrainian soldiers. The surprise stopover seemed to rebuke Biden's domestic and foreign critics, who have made a point of highlighting his age and verbal stumbles. To a large extent, Biden's remarks on Tuesday targeted Putin, who ordered the invasion of Ukraine almost exactly a year ago. The Russian aristocrat and the war's other architects thought the conflict would last mere days. Instead, Russia now finds itself in a grueling contest it seems incapable of winning outright. And Biden said Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia. Also in the news for Joe Biden, his closest advisors have spent months preparing for him to formally announce his re-election campaign. But with the president still not ready to make the plunge, a sense of doubt is creeping into conversations for the 2024 Democrats. What if he decides not to run? Biden's past decisions around seeking the presidency have been protracted, painstaking affairs. This time he has slipped past his most ambitious timetable as previously outlined by advisors to launch in February. Now they are thinking maybe around April, but even that target is less than definitive. People in the president's orbit say there's no hard deadline or formal process in place for arriving at a launch date decision. According to 4 people familiar with the president's thinking, a final call has been pushed aside as real-world events intervene. His cloak and dagger trip to Kiev over the holiday weekend took meticulous planning, and the positive reaction to it was seen internally as providing him with more runway to turn back to domestic politics. You know, there are so many people on the left that complain about his age and being too old. My kind of personal feeling on that is that he's a risk to Democrats to run him again.
There's that out there, age is just a number, but the older you get, the more that number becomes recognizable.
Yes.
So, I just don't want to get into politics, but I think if he runs, it's going to be more important who's going to be the vice president. It just, age works against you. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
But it's not an easy call, because if you look at the field that's out there, it's at least on the surface of the people that have kind of rose to the top. In my opinion, they're not very good choices. I don't care who you are.
Yes.
So,
all right, a little more news.
Maybe Scott and Mike need to run.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we're on opposite ends of the country. We have different perspectives. We don't necessarily agree on everything.
And they've already got that poster for us, twins.
That's right.
The little one and the big one.
Little one and the big one.
All right. I can say even at 56, I'm not sharp enough to run the country. I can barely even keep handles on a radio station. All right. Also in the news, kind of around the same thing on Tuesday, Russia tried and failed to test launch one of its new intercontinental ballistic missiles while Joe Biden was in neighboring Ukraine. Moscow said to have tested the 200-ton nuclear missile known as Satan II. That's real nice. Which can carry a dozen warheads and strike anywhere on the planet. While the U.S. president was meeting his Ukrainian counterpart, they tried to unsuccessfully launch it, which, I guess is a good thing. Russian officials warned Washington through the so-called deconfliction lines that the launch would be going ahead despite him being in Ukraine, but not to worry.
I was thinking about that as you went into that story.
Yeah.
Is that not the definition of a bad day?
Uh-huh.
You want to make a point while you're,
It's kind of scary. Biden's aides used those same lines of communication to notify Moscow of his visit to Kiev, warning against any attack on the city. And that would have, some people might have thought something could have happened, but that would have been a bad idea to attack Kiev while our president was there. That could have brought us right into the war if he would have done something like that.
Yeah, pretty quick. Yeah.
It's not clear if the attempted launch took place during the 4 hours the president was in the Ukrainian capital to mark the one-year anniversary of the invasion. Russian president has previously boasted his new missile, officially known to them as Sarmarmat, would give thought to those who are trying to threaten Russia. As I said, the missile reportedly has a range of 11,000 miles and can deliver between 10 and 15 nuclear warheads at supersonic speeds. Along with that, earlier in the week, we talked about how Russia had left the treaty for nuclear deproliferation. Russia will stick to agreed limits on nuclear missiles, they say, and keep informing the United States about changes to its deployments. And this is all according to a senior defense official on Wednesday. They said they'll do this despite the suspension of its last remaining arms control treaty with Washington. Both chambers of Russia's parliament voted quickly in favor of suspending Moscow's participation in the New START treaty, rubber stamping a decision that Vladimir Putin announced on Tuesday when he accused the West of trying to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia in Ukraine. All right, let's see. Just two more. Mitt Romney dismissed Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's call for a national divorce that would separate blue states from the red ones. That's right. All the righties are moving to the right. All the lefties moving to the left. We're putting a line right down the country. It's insane. All right.
Did you see where your favorite politician, Marjorie Taylor Greene, has decided if you move from a red state to a blue state, then you're going to lose your right to vote?
Yes, that's in there too. And Mitt Romney, the Republican, had some things to say about that. He said, I think Abraham Lincoln dealt with this kind of insanity. He added, we're not going to divide our country. It's united we stand, divided we fall. Greene, a conspiracy theorist and close ally of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, said under her plan, red states, as Mike said, would openly discriminate against LGBTQ people and strip Democrats who moved to those states of basic voting rights. Critics on both sides of the aisle denounced the plan, with some calling it treasonous and evil. Greene, who spoke last year at a white nationalist event, isn't backing down. She's doubling down. Because stupid is as stupid does. I'm just going to go ahead and say that, even though we're not talking about politics.
That's right.
She's getting a sympathetic ear from guess who? Sean Hannity. Aren't they all about to lose their lawsuit against Dominion too?
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah.
Romney continued to dismiss Greene and others on the extremes. He said, this is pretty good. He says, there are some people in my party and that other party that say things to try and get headlines and get people to send them money. And that happens to be today's loony left, or should I say our loony right.
The problem is we're between two loonies.
Yeah. And here's the thing is, he ran for president years ago. And if he would have said some of the things he said over the past couple of years, he would have got my vote. So I like what he has to say. He's, despite whether you're left or right, he's somebody who's calling it as it is. And I think that's really important right now.
Yeah, well, calling it as it is with credibility.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of people that call it the way they think it is.
And it doesn't add up, yeah.
But it doesn't add up, yeah, exactly.
Some pretty stark pictures online today of Venice as all their canals are almost dry due to a 70-year drought, a full moon, and low tides. They're making it impossible for gondolas and water taxis and ambulances to navigate waterways. I'd never seen a picture of Venice with the canals empty, so that's pretty grim. You can check that out online if you want to. And our Supreme Court weighing today whether Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube can be sued over a 2017 Islamic State group attack on a Turkish nightclub based on the argument the platforms assisted in fueling the growth of a terrorist organization. What the justices decide to do in this case, and a related one heard Tuesday, is important because the companies have been shielded from liability on the internet in the past, allowing them to grow into the giants they are today. On the first day of arguments, the justice suggested they had little appetite for a far-reaching ruling that would upend the internet. Wednesday's case about the nightclub attack in which 39 people died could provide an off-ramp for the justices if they want to limit the impact of what they do. At the heart of the case is before the justice are two federal laws. First, Section 230 of the Federal Communications Decency Act, which protects tech companies from being sued over material put on their sites by users. The second is the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, which allows Americans injured by a terrorist attack abroad to sue for money and damages in federal court. You know, I don't want to see them put rules on the internet, but at the same time, those three companies are really, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, they're all out of control. There needs to be some kind of governing legislation. And those leaders, Elon Musk and our Mr. Facebook, and isn't YouTube Google? I believe it is. So,
it is, yeah.
So those companies need to be held more accountable, and especially Musk with releasing all the safeguards for Twitter. They need to be held accountable for what they're letting people post on their sites. They are their sites, and in my opinion, they do have some culpability in anything that goes wrong on that site. You own it, you run it, it's yours.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, that's a fine line between, the First Amendment right of free speech and what's good for humanity.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a difficult choice. It
is. It's not an easy decision.
How do you protect the First Amendment and protect people as well? So.
Right. I mean, there are people that would get rid of us.
Especially Thursdays. That's all we're going to say about that. All right, as we head for the 8 o'clock hour and some special guests today, Mr. Mike Bentz with the Nonprofit Roundup.
Okay.
You got applause and everything today.
Before we got on the show, you asked me if I had very much. This is Chihuahua, Scott.
Oh, so you got a bunch. You said you could do it in 15 minutes, which would be a first.
I should be able to get it done within 15 minutes.
Sure. I gave you 20.
Right. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I see that. Okay. I mean, okay. Well, I'm gonna get it done sooner, so it's gonna put you on the spot to keep the show rolling. Oh,
that's easy. I got lots of stuff in my wallet.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Well, let's start out with our wonderful Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
The Chihuahua Chamber of Commerce annual Home and Garden Show is coming up on March 25th at Guess Elementary from 10 to 3. As of about a week ago, they already have 19 businesses and nonprofits signed up. Then, that Guess Elementary gym fills up pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
So, but if you do want to put a booth in the show, you need to get a hold of Christina with a K. And so I'm going to, when I put her, the administrative assistant, the new one, in my phone, how would you spell Christina?
Well, you already told me it was with a K.
Okay, even with a K, how would you spell it?
I do it really cool, like Krist, I don't know, and then an Ina on the end.
Okay. All right. You're pretty close, actually.
Okay.
She spells it Krystena.
Ooh, even cooler.
Even cooler.
ENA.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Okay.
But if you haven't met Christina, I would highly recommend you stop by and do that. She is a firebrand.
All right.
So she gets the job done. So anyway, the Home and Garden Show is coming up. As always, I really, really encourage people to go to it for two reasons. It doesn't hurt to know who your neighbors are. And then on top of that, it was mine and Loretta's best introduction, or has been our best introduction, to the various nonprofits and businesses that are in Chihuahua. And so I would definitely recommend that people go to it. I do know that the lines in the Kiwanis are going to be there serving their famous or infamous hamburgers.
Ooh.
And there'll be door prizes and, the little bags they hand out. And I know that the golf course, the Rusty Putter, are going to be there because I'm going to deliver the contract today, and the Creative District. And so I'll get to the Creative District and what we're going to be doing there in a moment. And then, as always, don't forget those Chamber Bucks. The Chamber Bucks, you can go in and see Christina, and you can get them any denomination. There's no premium. So if you give her $100 for Chamber Bucks, you get $100 worth of purchasing power back. And they're good at about 40 or 42 businesses locally. and a great way to reward employees. If you can't get that gift for Scott because he's got everything, you can give him chamber bucks.
So Mike did.
And Scott, you are really being weird on my screen.
I am.
Yeah.
I think we're okay. I had forgot to press a button. It's all good now, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't see you, but I get this kind of color thing.
Yeah, you know, somebody Val was complaining about it yesterday. Zoom did an update.
Okay.
That's all I can say. Zoom did an update. It wasn't me.
Okay. It wasn't you. Okay.
Right.
Anyway, so those chamber bucks. I'm sure that if you're able to give cash or write a check, I'll encourage Christina to have them at the Home and Garden Show.
Okay.
And then I don't have the hard dates yet, but the next two events that are coming up, one of them would be the citywide cleanup, which will be in April, and then probably one of those famous events in Chihuahua, the citywide garage sale, which is always the first Saturday in May.
Fun.
So those things are coming up, and that's actually sponsored by the Independent. And there again, it's a great way to get to know your neighbors, because I think everybody in the world participates in that. So and on your side, can you see you blinking in and out?
Not at all. I don't see it on YouTube or Facebook either. So.
Oh, okay. I think it's going to be like one of those old cartoons. Eventually, it's going to blink fast enough, it's going to turn into a movie.
Okay.
Okay, then I'll move on to Chihuahua Center for the Arts. But since Catherine's going to be here at 8:45, just real quick, the Park Players auditions are coming up for 9 to 5, and she'll talk about that, Sage Time Theater, those types of things. And I told Loretta I love her as an interview because she's got that kind of English accent, and she's been in the theater forever. So from that perspective, stay tuned.
She was a nice addition to the group there at the Chihuahua Center for the Arts.
Oh,
so.
Great addition.
Yeah.
Great addition. The Chihuahua Arts Guild, they had their community art show this last weekend on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I was really trying to figure out, okay, how well did it go? Was it, those types of things. And I was on a call last night, and it went phenomenal. They were busy all 3 days, and based upon the person I was talking to on the conference call last night, they had a wide variety of different artists, and Jamie Thompson was who I was talking to, and she said, it was really, really nice, the amount of kid art, and that's where the school, I didn't realize maybe this is that strong, but the school brings art in from the kids from the schools, and they do a display there of kid art.
Okay.
And just based on what I've seen on Facebook, it was a success across the board. And then going on to the creative district, the public mosaic that we've been working on, we started out Winterfest, and they actually finished it up at the community art show with the Arts Guild. That is now fully subscribed, which means all the tiles have been completed. So the next step will be to mount all those tiles. And then the plan is to do kind of an unveiling at the Home and Garden Show. So, we discussed last night the mounting process and all that's got to get done. And then the plan is once it's mounted and framed, then we'll figure out some kind of a rotation to where it can be seen by the public. So it'll be placed in different places throughout town. So, and I've seen pictures of it. It really came out really cool. So, in fact, even Loretta saw a picture of it, and she says, "That's cool." So, and it's pretty big. It's 4 feet by 4 feet, and they're all 4 by 4 tiles. And everybody was able to take a tile, look at the background where that tile is. It might be sky, it might be quartzite, it might be the ground in the front, and then take artistically what they thought of Chihuahua relative to that background. So. Some of them are really, really pretty neat. So, and then First Thursday's coming up on March 2nd, which is next Thursday. Come to think of it, boy, time flies. And the Spotlight Gallery will be there, but also on First Thursday this time around, Westhoff does a quarterly showing, and so the Westhoff Gallery, which is in the WEI building on 395, will be participating along with the usual suspects. which would be Tailsing Gallery, the Spotlight Gallery, Yale Press, McCunn Gallery, and now the Westoff edition for the quarter. So that's coming up next Thursday. Always a good time. And hopefully the winter weather will start alleviating a little bit. It is March. So, you know, and so come on downtown and join that. And of course, we have another Wednesday coming up prior to that. So I know Tim's out of town, so maybe we can snare him for the radio next Wednesday. How's that sound?
That sounds good. We haven't had an interview with Mr. Nielsen in a long time.
Yeah, so I'll email him because I know he's out of town, and see if he'd be available on the 2nd to be able to do that.
Okay.
So let's see, downtown strategies, the initiative, between the chamber and the city, they went ahead and contracted downtown retail strategies out of Alabama, actually, to help with the revitalization of downtown. So there's actually 4 teams that have been involved with that. There's the policy and administration team, the economic vitality team, the design team, and then the tourist and promotion team. And that's all coming together. We're meeting this Thursday evening to put together a presentation. And the presentation in March will go to 3 parties. There'll be one for business owners, one for the city council, and then one for the public. And all those are designed for input. There's been a fair amount of input up to this point. That was the whole purpose of the teams. But now it's time to roll it out and see what the public think. And I know on the tourism promotion side, our team came up with 4 what we'll call major festivals for the year. One of them will be what we'll call, or if the chamber is okay with it, we're going to call the city sidewalks. We're going to move that into a holiday festival because now with the Creative District Farmers Market and the Chamber with City Sidewalks together, that really ended up being a super event on the first weekend in December. And then Winterfest. Winterfest was held a couple of weeks ago, and that ended up coming out really well. And then there is really nothing into the spring, but then one of the ideas we're going to get out there and see what people think will be a Huckleberry Fest towards the 3rd week in July. And I did a little research on that, and there's only one other Huckleberry Fest in the state of Washington. It's down at Clickitat, down on the Columbia.
Okay.
So we're pretty well known up here for huckleberries. And then the last one will be the Fall Fest, which you were still around for the Fall Fest, weren't you? I can't remember.
No.
Oh, okay. So those will be the 4 festivals that we're going to recommend that the town and everybody else focuses on. And then the struggle we had was there are so many events going on starting roughly around the 1st of May through the end of August, that if you put some kind of a festival in there, we especially early on, we felt that would pull away from them. So on the last call, Jamie was there from the casino, and she started talking about all the things the casino does. They've got the bike show and the car show and the art show, and I mean, they've got a lot of things going on. And then you tie that back into the Chihuahua Center for the Arts, and then the things the golf course does, and a variety of other organizations. We felt that if we did something larger, it would take away from the whole, if that makes sense. And so we're going to really heavily promote a centralized calendar where people can go to a calendar and they'll say, okay, this is going on this week, or this is going on, that type of thing. And then let each organization support what they do, and then figure out a way from the backside to then the back end to promote that.
Yeah, that's something I think we talked about before. We've tried to put together between the nonprofits and Chihuahua several times that hasn't launched very well, or we get it going and then somebody that's in a position where they're managing that calendar ends up getting a new job or moves away or something like that. So,
right. Yeah.
We need to get a more permanent situation with that.
Well, and you're right. It's got to be housed on an organization that's dynamic enough they're going to stay around. And frankly, it's not ran by volunteers because that's where you kind of get into a problem. The volunteers either age out, burn out, or move on.
Yeah.
So if it becomes a function of somebody where it's an employee, I think it can happen, especially if that person has skill sets to make sure it gets done. And so I'm really going to push pretty hard on that because that's a frustration for everybody. Is there's always something going on in Chihuahua, but how do you access that information?
Well, and then
So
trying
without
to something that's all encompassing for the year, and it gives other groups an opportunity that do want to hold an event as a place to go to look and see what's the best weekend. I mean, years ago, I always used to call Sharon and say, Sharon, I want to do a talent show. When's a good weekend in May? You know, when we don't have a play or because she involved in so many groups and the city.
right, yeah,
But
and there's two schools of thought there. If you keep it really localized, it really becomes a, a challenge because there's only so many people that can go to so many events at the same time. And I mean, the demographics really kind of cross pollinate themselves because, you got families with kids, families with no kids, you've got seniors, you've got kids by themselves. I mean, you could go on and on and on. Um, so I believe a centralized calendar will help people not only schedule, but events, but it'll also help people decide where do they want to put their time. And I've maintained for years that our time is our most precious commodity, and especially in a world where it seems like it moves faster every day, you want to protect that time for things that are important. So I believe that I'm really going to in my time I have here, and then I actually, even once I get relocated and we continue the radio show, I'm going to really promote somebody pound that drum all the time. Where's the centralized calendar? Where's the centralized calendar? And get all the organizations to figure out how to support that. So, um, but anyway, so that's happening, and I'll have more information next week as far as hard dates and when this is going to happen and who they're going to be targeted to, and encourage people to show up because public input is probably the most important part of any type of community asset when you start building it out. And there again, it's the old adage: if you don't show up, it's hard for you to play.
and you can't complain either.
And you can't come up. No,
That's right.
people always complain.
Okay.
But yeah, that's one of my mantras is, if you don't show up, you don't really have a voice, or your voice has very little value. So, because you didn't show up.
That's right.
So anyway, and then finally, just the golf course, we got a little more snow. So I think winter sports are still here, as far as cross country. Unfortunately, yeah. Although, how Facebook gives you those feeds from the past.
Yeah.
This isn't really that out of the ordinary. I think what's out of the ordinary is the snow started in October, has never stopped.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The thing that's out of the ordinary is it's been a very long winter for you guys. Now, I've been hammered since about the second week of January here in Maine, but winter didn't arrive until the second week of January. So, but we're paying for it now. So,
yeah. Well, and ours is because of the cycle and the temperatures, everything, you got a bunch of snow, then it melted a little bit, then it froze solid, and then you got a little bit more snow. So it's kind of this layering effect out there.
It should have created a great snowpack.
Right.
For water this year.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that Eric Bakken's dancing a jig up at 49 degrees north because when I talked to him, he said, it's been a phenomenal season. And this is me talking, but I think it's been a phenomenal season, not only because of all their new equipment and things up there, but because the snow never stopped.
All right.
But anyway,
you filled 20 minutes. Look at you.
Well, I still haven't finished.
Oh. Could you do that?
I got 30 seconds.
You got 30 seconds.
Okay. All right. Okay, I just want to remind people the Rusty Putter is open off-season hours on Friday and Saturday from 8 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock in the afternoon, and then Sundays from 8 to 3 p.m.
All right. Good job, Mike. All right, coming up today, I've got a few right here. Coming up today, 3 to 5, in-person weekly tech help at our Chihuahua Library. Don't forget, you got a Chamber of Commerce meeting on Friday at 7 a.m. Those take place out at the casino. Next week, story time for the kids on Tuesday, 11:30 to 5 p.m. at your Chihuahua Library. And then they're doing that tech help 10 to 3 No, I'm wrong. Next Wednesday, it's First Wednesdays with Ted at the Chihuahua Public Library. That's where you catch up with Brandon Hanson and get details if you're thinking about opening up a new business. Brandon at the library between 10 and 3 on Wednesdays, then 3 to 5 on next Wednesday is your in-person weekly tech help. As Mike said, first Thursday on the 2nd next week. And then if I jump to the weekend on the 4th, our Sons of the American Legion. Saturday, March 4th, the Sons will be hosting a Dungeness crab feed.
Ooh.
Space is limited, folks. Call before 2:27. All right, call before the 27th. Reserve your spot now. You want to call Alan? The phone number to call is area code 509 395 8464. 395-8464. You can, it looks like, here's another one, 509-396-1376. And Tom at 509-690-6081. That last one, 509-690-6081. Support the Sons of the American Legion. They do a lot to keep our American Legion going. It's pretty awesome. All right. Looks like we've got Larry Fetter in the studio. He's going to come talk about a new plan for parks and recreation in the city of Chihuahua. We're going to follow that up at 8:45 with Catherine Patton from the Park Avenue Players and the Chihuahua Center for the Arts talking about tryouts for a new place. So we've got a full second part if you stick right here. Mike, I saved this for you. All right, before we go. Just to prove that I'm still living in rural America, I just moved to the opposite side of the country. I was on Craigslist searching for some stuff the other day, and I saw a posting that said meet rabbits, and it's spelled M-E-E-T. So I thought, what did Craigslist open a dating site for rabbits? And apparently it's for humans because it says meet rabbits, once again spelled M-E-E-T. Meet rabbits, they are 10 to 12 weeks old, and you can meet both males and females. There you go. Stew on that one, and we'll be back with Larry Fetter. It is Northern Lights Public Radio, KCHW 102.7. Don't forget, we are also on Facebook and YouTube and our website with video feeds too this morning. Check it out.
It's 8:02.
You're listening to Northern Lights Public Radio on 102.7 KCHW, Chihuahua, Springdale, Welpinit.
You're listening to 102.7 KCHW, Chihuahua.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Laura Macon-Isherwood. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has met with China's top diplomat Wang Yi in Moscow. The two men have been pictured.
All right, so I let him in. Larry, are you with us?
Yeah, it says trying to connect. Do, 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 do. Oh, he's on.
Morning.
Good morning, Larry.
Yeah, sorry for the delay.
It's all right.
But we're connected here. Well, how are you guys?
Good. Just a little FYI, even though we're not going out over the radio, the way that our setup works here from Maine to Chihuahua is we do go out over Facebook and YouTube. So we just wanted to welcome you. Do you have a video feed for us today?
I don't. So is audio going to work?
Audio will be fine.
Okay, great. I've been told I have the perfect face for radio, so that's good.
Oh, cool. Just like me then. All right.
Maybe.
All right. Okay. Let's see. I got your newspaper article pulled up. And we're just going to, when we come back from the news, or when we come out of the news, there'll be some sponsors. And then you'll hear theme music as we come back into the show. And we'll just kind of start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself. All right, Larry?
That sounds good. Thanks.
All right. So don't disconnect and just stand by. You're going to hear the news coming down the line. Did you have anything to say, Mike?
Not really. I
Okay.
think you've got the questions that are the highlights that Larry wanted to talk about. Then, of course, we're going to, or at least I'm going to key a lot of things off the article. Other than that, nope.
Okay.
Nope. Welcome aboard.
All right. Stand by, guys.
23-year-old remains a threat to national security. Members of the Royal College of Nursing Union in the UK have paused a planned strike as what are being described as intensive negotiations get underway with government officials. Guardian journalist Aubrey Allegretti says it could be a significant moment.
The Royal College of Nursing was due to walk out next week for 48 hours and would have seen for the first time nurses refusing to work in A&E and intensive care. That strike has been called off. This is obviously opening the door to something that ministers have previously not done. We're likely to see things go very quiet on this front now, as I think both the government and the unions try to take the heat out of things.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, one way of viewing the dueling speeches that have taken place this week between US President Joe Biden in Kyiv and Warsaw and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. The two men could not have struck a more discordant tone, according to Matt Fry, presenter and Europe editor of Channel 4 News in the UK. He is in Kyiv.
You have, in Biden's speech in Warsaw and Putin's speech in Moscow this morning, two very rival, diametrically opposed visions of what they think the world order should be. Plus, from Putin, a very clear statement that if you think this war might end anytime soon, you're wrong. And not just is this war being fought to resurrect the greatness of Russia and to squash any sense of a separate Ukrainian nation, but also it is fought to ward off the kind of contagion of decadence that comes from the West. I mean, there was a good part of the speech where he talks about gender and transgender and gay rights. This is an obsession, the kind of decadent family values of the West, which is also one reason, by the way, why some of the American right and even some people in Britain in the culture wars are making common cause with Putin, even though they disagree with so much else.
Tomorrow, more from Matt Fry on why President Biden in Kyiv did not promise President Zelensky fighter jets and whether that decision might eventually change. I'm Simon Marks.
To recap the top stories, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has met with China's top diplomat Wang Yi in Moscow. The two men have been pictured sitting closely together, with President Putin speaking of greater cooperation between the two nations. US President Joe Biden, meanwhile, is seeking to reassure his counterparts from nations sitting at NATO's eastern flank. And a nursing union in the UK calls off planned strikes as intensive talks with the government get underway. That's the latest feature story news. Laura Macon-Isherwood reporting.
It's 8:07.
Your KCHW morning show is made possible by donations from Chihuahua Flooring. Chihuahua Flooring at 214 East Clay in the 3rd Street Mall offers a wide variety of products, including carpet, ceramic and porcelain tile, vinyl and laminate planks, and vinyl sheet flooring. Chihuahua Flooring carries products for both commercial businesses and residential homes, including brands like Southwind, Del Tile, Mannington, and Mohawk. For more information, you can visit online at chihuahuaflooring.com. Call 509-935-8021 or via email through chihuahuaflooring@gmail.com.
Your KCHW morning show made possible by a donation from God-Fearing Brothers Auto Center. God-Fearing Brothers specializes in auto services, including repair, maintenance, and detailing. They also stock a full selection of tires, make glass repairs, offer towing, and have an auto sales lot on the corner of Highway 395 and Main Street at the light. For more information, you can visit the Auto Service Center at 806 East Main in Chihuahua. Find them online at godfearingbrothers.com or by phone at 509-935-6414. KCHW-FM thanks God-Fearing Brothers for supporting public radio in Stevens County.
KCHW programming is made possible by listeners like you and by
New Health.
At New Health, we are committed to promoting health and wellness within our communities by providing integrated open access healthcare for all. Our medical care teams offer in-person visits, curbside care, and telehealth visits. Schedule today for a new patient appointment. Curbside pharmacy pickup and mailing options are available to meet your medication needs. Contact New Health at 509-935-6004. That's 509-935-6004 to schedule today, or visit our website at newhealth.org for a location nearest you. New patients are welcome and most insurance plans are accepted, including Medicare, Apple Health Plans, TRICARE, and private insurance. New Health, celebrating 45 years of bringing healthcare into communities and communities into healthcare.
This is KCHW, Chewelah, 102.7 FM.
And we're back. It's KCHW 102.7. Scott, Mike, and Mr. Larry Fetter along with us for this segment. Larry, thanks for being here today. And we'll just give people that are watching online a heads up. Larry does not have any video, so that strange voice you hear with no face will be Larry. How you doing, Larry?
I'm good. Good morning. Maybe next time I can do video. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Did we forget to tell you?
Well, I don't know that we even talked about it. I just assumed it was just going to be a radio show. So you guys have taken technology to another level here, but invite me back and we'll get you a video.
Yeah, every morning, morning's a podcast. There you go.
Yeah, that's right. And Larry, you're worldwide.
Oh, yeah.
Could be on. So we have listeners in like Guam and Hawaii. And
oh, boy. I got to work on my game.
Yeah. All right, Larry. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I said, which also means, you gotta look fairly decent.
Yeah, I'll give that a shot too, Mike. I'll do what I can.
So no pajamas, no.
Well, at least from the top up.
Sometimes Scott is suspect.
Yes. Yeah. From the top up, I look good.
Yeah, you look great.
All right, Larry. Mike said you are a graduate of JHS. What year did you graduate?
Yeah, 1979. Way back. Yeah.
All right. You probably were in high school with my sister, Sonny Schlafman.
Wow, that's amazing. I haven't heard that name in so long, and she was definitely in my class, along with the Stroyans and the Coles and a whole bunch of other people that she would know. But I didn't have any idea that your sister was Sonny.
It is that she is my sister, in fact.
Dang.
All right, and she's doing well. So there you go.
I'm glad to hear it. Where's she at?
She is in Nashville right now.
Wow. And warmer, I think.
If you remember that she had a Southern accent, it's even worse
I do.
now. It's really heavy. It's really heavy. All right. So, Larry, so let's start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you back to Chewelah, because I did the same thing.
Well, sometimes I'm wondering, I kind of forgot how the winters were, looking out the window here and the snow and the cold and all that. And it's like, it reminds me of when I had a paper route back in 1974, trudging down to the Chevron station and picking up all those papers and the Spokesman Review back when there was such a thing. And you deliver them all over. So, I forgot to tell my wife that that's what we were moving into. And so we're spending a lot of time out of state trying to get warm this winter. But I spent my entire life in Parks and Recreation, several cities. In fact, my early days here in Chewelah, I used to manage the swimming pool, taught a lot of kids how to swim. And that was kind of my foundation and my introduction into Parks and Recreation. I ended up going to Eastern Washington University, got a degree in Parks and Rec, and then worked for about 5 different cities: Mercer Island, Enumclaw, Pullman. And then the last 10 years were in Hermiston, Oregon. And very fortunate to have got to build parks, trail systems, all kinds of recreation facilities, manage them. And really a very fun career. and I retired a year ago in September. And my wife and I were just shopping around. We didn't even think, we weren't thinking Chewelah at all, but we happened to be kind of just, I've got plenty of connections from growing up here, and we knew we wanted to be in Washington, but we weren't sure where. And after spending a little bit of time here, it's like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense for us. So just been here a year, and that's how it started.
All right. So you're bringing a ton of experience along with you for this. And what kind of, how did you get into this process of helping Chewelah with Park and Recs Department?
Yeah, that's a story. Someone invited me to a chamber meeting because that's, kind of a quick way to get caught up on, what's happening in town, in addition to listening to your radio show. But so I went to a chamber meeting and the mayor was there. He was newly elected. And I thought, I'm just going to ask him after the meeting if there's been any talk about, building another swimming pool. That was such a huge loss, I feel like, to this community. And, it's still kind of a recent scar. And it was shocking to me because I didn't know the pool had been removed. So after the meeting, I caught him and I said, hey, you don't know me, but I'm interested to know if you have any thoughts about a new swimming pool. And he goes, who are you? And so, well, I explained to him who I was and what my interest was. And we spent several meetings. We meet on a regular basis now. And he's like, yeah, Parks and Recreation is a big priority to me. It's part of my mayor's goals and objectives for Chewelah. And you could really be an asset. And so I thought, well, I'm retired, but I'm not necessarily disinterested in this idea. And to come back to a small community and get the opportunity to work with the local leadership on how you could potentially add to our Parks and Recreation system is pretty exciting. So that was the introduction. We ended up shopping around for some grant money with the state, and we ended up getting it. And so we have launched what we're calling the Mayor's Task Force for Parks and Recreation Planning for the city of Chewelah, which is a long way of saying, what do you want your park system to look like in 5 or 10 years?
Sure.
So Larry, I know one of the grant you got was from RCO.
Yep.
And I brought that up earlier when Scott and I were talking before we got on the air, and he said, what is RCO? So I kind of gave him my impression of it, but you've had way more dealings with them. So why don't you give us a primer on what is RCO?
You bet. Well, RCO is the state's Recreation and Conservation Office. It's the main organization that's associated with state parks, but they also have the assignment of distributing funds, a variety of different funding programs, everything from trails to local parks to playgrounds, almost everything you can imagine Parks and Recreation, there's a program for. It's a whole bag, if you will, of different programs. Their funding cycle is every other year, so you kind of have to know how they operate. It's a competitive process. Some grants, there's a match requirement, and some grants, there's not. They're not the only granting source, but they are the largest by far in Washington. And so, their job is to distribute money, and we want to be part of that program. So having a plan, which is what we're up to, is essential to get your project proposal scored effectively to get it funded. So there's a lot of, learning curve associated with what are the magic words they want to hear to get your project funded. People think a lot of times that grant writing is easy. Well, it is easy to write a grant. It's a lot harder to get funded. So I've been really fortunate to be successful at grant writing and getting funds. And now we're back in the game here in Chewelah. But can I get into the park plan a little bit, or did you have specific questions about RCO?
No, we'll take you into that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll kick into that. I just wanted to give an overview because from my impression is, I've got this philosophy, no plan is a plan.
Yeah.
And so what you've been able to accomplish in a relatively short period of time is to actually get the funding for the plan.
Yes.
But we'll let you take it from there.
I have one question, Larry, and that is because I think it's important for people to know too. You're doing this as a volunteer?
Actually, I was prepared to, but now that we have this funding, I'm going to be the city's agent on this. The mayor's asked me to do it, and so my work is going to be paid for. But that's pretty normal in the world of Parks and Recreation. And I will tell you, it's more than a full-time job. It's a big, heavy lift. There's lots of reporting, billing. And once I describe the plan to you, I think you'll have a pretty good idea, why that's worth paying for.
Okay. Now, has Chewelah, Mike brought this up earlier, and just before we let you fire off on the plan, has Chewelah had a Parks and Recreation department before? Because I know the bowling alley and the swimming pool, I heard them to referred as that as City Parks and Recreation, but did they actually have a Parks and Recreation department at the city at any point in the past?
Not that's staff funded. There have been a number of volunteer efforts. And so your point about the bowling alley is a good one. I'll just give you a little bit of background in Chewelah, because these are really good questions you're asking. It's been an evolution, as you can imagine. Well, quite a while ago, there was a formation of the Chewelah Recreation Association, and I've been in contact with those folks. In fact, they're part of the mayor's task force for the work that we're doing.
Good.
We almost lost our bowling alley recently when the managers retired, and fortunately they got that figured out. But the Chewelah Recreation Association that was their main responsibility, was to build and operate the bowling alley. So that was kind of the early days of Parks and Recreation in Chewelah. It's a small nonprofit organization whose really focus has been just the bowling alley. They weren't really interested in doing anything else. The city has had a variety of efforts related to Parks and Recreation. Of course, they got the main park, and they've done other park development through the Public Works Department. And so it's the Public Works Department that really has done the heavy lifting as far as park maintenance, park development, lots of volunteer efforts relating to parks. And you know who else is in the Parks and Recreation District big time in Chewelah is the school district. They definitely have a big chunk of the land that people use to recreate on. And they've got the tennis courts, and they've got gymnasiums and things like that. So they are in the recreation business. Of course, their mission is the student population, but they are a big partner that relates to the overall Parks and Recreation availability within the city. So there's quite a bit of overlap. And then you can even expand this to include the golf course, and more recently, what's going on with Gold Hills. And if you take it even further, you could say, well, of course, the ski hill 49 is in the Parks and Recreation business. But to answer your question about the city's involvement, it's not been an organized program like you might find in other cities that are a little larger, like even Colville has a more traditional park and recreation department where they've got a parks director, a park manager, they're organizing programs, they're doing the registration for those programs, they're recruiting coaches and blah, blah, blah. It's a big bag of activity that goes along with, operating the programming, managing facilities. They've got their swimming pool, which is a summer program. So Chewelah really has been a volunteer-based, with the exception of the pool. Back when we had a pool manager, and then lifeguarding staff. and everything that goes along with that. But with the loss of the pool in particular here, there has been really very limited involvement in the city's part as it relates to Parks and Recreation.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate this. I think it's a good move before we release you here. There's been several interviews over the past. Mike was saying that I would be excited about this, where I had tasked city officials saying, you know, we talk about tourism and we talk about community, but there's really nothing for the kids. And the state of our parks has dwindled. There used to be a much larger, as you probably remember, play area right there in the city park across from the bowling alley. And then we lost the pool, and it just seemed like a disadvantage to the city not to have a strong Parks and Recreation department and things for kids to do. I mean, kids can always find trouble, but keeping them engaged in fun activities, I think, is really important. So tell us about this new plan, and I believe you call it PROS?
We do. It's an acronym, which is Parks and Recreation Open Space Plan. So it's a long way of saying, you know, what do you want your park system to look like in 5 or 10 years, and be very deliberate about that. And to your point, Scott, we've experienced this decline, and that's predictable unless you reinvest in your system. And why would you take the time and the effort and the money to invest in a park and recreation system? So that's really the foundation question. And it all gets back to this quality of life, right? So, you know, when people are considering, and I just went through this, you know, when my wife and I were considering, we didn't have to live in Chewelah. I had a connection, so that made it more interesting or more attractive to us. But I don't know that I would have picked Chewelah to move to without that connection, because Chewelah is in competition with every other community, especially in Stevens County, where, you know, if you're thinking about moving to a small community, you are considering, well, where am I going to recreate? What do the parks look like? What are the schools like? You know, what's the crime rate look like? Where am I going to shop? What are my kids going to do? Those are all real tangible questions. You know, how do I get to Costco? You know, there's a bunch of questions that people ask themselves, you know, before they move. It's like, and to your point, what are the quality of life package? And Parks and Recreation is part of that traditionally. And because it's been done on a volunteer basis in Chewelah, mostly, you'll have periods of greatness and you'll have periods of decline. There are, you know, ways to kind of grow beyond that perspective. And this plan will help do that, stabilize Parks and Recreation. But more importantly, what do we want this system to look like in the future? And I'll just give you one little thought about, you know, Park and Recreation trends, and you guys will pick up on this immediately. The number one outdoor recreation activity nationally is walking, number one. And so, well, that makes sense when you think about it, but, you know, intuitively, you don't really think of it that way. And what people want to do if they're walking, they want to be on trails that are separate from traffic. My wife and I walk on a regular basis. You know, you don't really want to be sharing the road with traffic. It's just, you know, it's a little scary. It's not as enjoyable. And we have so many natural assets here with Chewelah Creek, and just, it's a beautiful place to be. But we've already received a bunch of feedback, just, you know, introducing this plan idea, that trail development is a high interest to this community, especially if you look at the age demographics, where you've got, you know, a largely aging population. And they, you know, they're not necessarily into high activities. Sometimes they are, but not necessarily. They just want to get out and be outside and do it in a safe way. The same thing is true for bicycling. So what's super popular right now is what we call multimodal trails that are, you've seen them, like Centennial Trail in Spokane is multimodal. It's asphalt, about 10 or 12 feet wide, which allows for, you know, quite a bit of use. whether you're walking or, skateboarding or whatever you're doing, that's kind of the standard. And you might know if you've been on Centennial Trail, it's often along some kind of a natural corridor. We got the Spokane River there. So why not take advantage of our assets here in Chewelah? Similarly, it's also come up the idea of connecting the golf course with a trail system to Chewelah. And then as long as we're just dreaming, which this park plan will do, what if that trail system were part of a bigger regional trail system, say from Deer Park up to Kettle Falls? What would that be like? So Chewelah's got this section of it, but if you want to get on your bike and go to Deer Park, you can do it and not have to interact with traffic at all. Traffic on 395, gentlemen, is crazy compared to what I grew up in.
Yeah,
oh my
no kidding.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those kinds of developments are really going to take center stage in this park planning process. So we've already done a temperature check with the task force. It's a group of folks that have a high interest, diversity in all things parks and recreation. And I've asked them, we've met once, and we did a little exercise and we did some scoring about what they think Chewelah should bring recreationally. And no big surprise to me was number one was aquatics, and number two was trail development. And we're going to take this survey idea to the broader community in a variety of different ways. I'm going to be hanging out at the farmers market. I'm going to be talking to every group that'll listen to me. I've already gone to the chamber, and I'm going to be collecting feedback. And then the highest priority items are what this group is going to focus on. And I think the early indications are it's going to be aquatics and trails. There's going to be a whole slew of other ideas, of course. Maybe someone's going to want to see a gondola ride up to Quartzsite. I don't know what they're going to come up with. But the top priority ones we're going to drill down and focus in on and come up with a strategy, for the top 5.
All right.
So it could be a combination of, different ways to make it happen. But it all starts with an idea, right?
So
right.
I've got one question, and the pool, going through that whole thing here on the radio when it was being taken away, when they were tearing it down, and for reasons it was losing tons of water. I don't know if it was 500 gallons a day or 500 gallons, losing tons of water, and then the cost of not only the water but maintaining the pool. And one of the questions, I know there were some volunteers that did it, but you couldn't have kids doing the chemicals. So there had to be an adult there. And one of the questions I asked one day was they had a number that seemed huge to me to take care of the pool every summer, like $30,000. And my question was, are city employees mowing the lawn? And the mayor at that time said yes. Well, so now we have a union wage person mowing a lawn. So those are costs that we don't typically think about in our heads. And the cost of putting in a swimming pool is enormous. How do you have ideas on how we move into that aquatics and what that might look like? And then how do we keep it funded into the future so we don't end up in the same place? Because just me in my head, I don't think having union wage people mowing the lawn is a good use of city employees' time. Probably number one. And number two, how do you do that? Because there's all sorts of legal ramifications there too, between unions and just who could do it and what insurance is going to cover. Do you have something in your head or something you've worked at like in a similar situation before that you're bringing to the table?
Well, in 40 years of public administration, government management, you do have, every city is unique to a degree, right? But what's not unique is people's interest in recreating. And so that's universal. People want to have facilities that to your point, Scott, what are my kids going to do? What's my family going to do? Why am I choosing Chewelah over another place? Well, the answers to your question, there's a variety of ways you can approach. Let's take aquatics, for example. usually in a community the size of Chewelah, because it's a small population, you've only got about 2,700 people. It's split, so it makes it unique. You got the golf course community, and then you've got, the main town. So you've already got kind of an interesting dynamic there. But very often when communities of this size want to do something ambitious, like an aquatic center, and I'll describe that in a second here, but they'll often do it through a mechanism called establishing a park and recreation district. And if you hypothetically use the school district boundary as that district boundary, just to kind of, test a case scenario on you.
Okay.
If we pretended that the school district was a boundary, and we established just by voting in a park district, and this is pretty common. The state of Washington has different methods of doing this, but I'll just describe it generally. So you vote it into place, and then all of a sudden your population doubles, in Chewelah's case, from 2,500 to over 5,000 people. Well, that's helpful for a number of reasons. One, it can make you more competitive because all of a sudden your population is twice when it comes to asking the state for money, because they look at the size of your population and what you're proposing and who's going to benefit, and then that's part of the scoring process. So it's very helpful to establish a district from that point of view. You follow that thought, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say you're interested in doing an aquatic center. Well, what kind of aquatic center? The pools are expensive. If pools were cheap and easy to operate, the private sector would do it. But it's not that profitable generally, unless it's included in a bunch of other activities. Let's say that's why resorts, Chewelah Casino is going to have a pool. You guys know that, right?
Yes.
Right. The reason they're putting a pool in there is to attract families, and people will stay longer. And what are my kids going to do while I'm in, playing at the casino for a little bit? It's like everyone wins. Well, if you take that same idea to a municipal aquatic center, you can recover the majority of your costs through fees and charges, right? So there's like a private club would do. So you've got a membership for families, so typically a modern aquatic center isn't just aquatics anymore. It includes fitness, it includes walking, it includes there's different kinds. Sometimes there's racket sports involved, etc. And so as part of a package, the pool may lose money, but it's offset by the rest of the revenue. So you can actually operate, I'll call it a rec center with little or no subsidy.
So basically, what you're talking about is like the one that's in Usk on the other side of the mountain.
Yeah, except that they're subsidized. That's a tribal facility, and so they're operating. Let's say that kind of facility, if it were here in Chewelah, is about the right scope, right size. I'm going to go check that facility out firsthand so I get a better understanding of it. But, the economics of that facility for them are very different than what we would have to do here in Chewelah. But yes, Scott, that kind of facility that offers a variety of recreation activity is easier to recover your costs on. If you have an outdoor swimming pool like we did in Chewelah, and I heard that $30,000 number too.
Okay.
And so I haven't really dug into that, but let's say that that's true. $30,000 a year to operate is probably above what they were collecting in, daily entrance fees and other revenues coming in off of it. So if you take that idea and expand it from a 3-month program into a 12-month program, as part of a bigger recreation facility, it changes the whole economic structure. And you can operate those facilities with little or no subsidy. So, and that would be the goal, right? You want to be able to make enough money off the thing. And, let's take the golf course too. That'd be that'd be their goal as well. We want to operate this golf course with enough revenue coming in to keep up the facility, to have it be a draw, to look to expansion. So it's the same desire, same end goal of how are we going to build it? And then can we build it in a way that meets the community needs without being some big financial drain?
It needs to be self-sustaining, right? Because I would guess that the one in Usk, based on its size and how nice it is, that it doesn't cover its own costs. I would, and this is just a guess, I don't know, but I would guess that the tribe has to subsidize that extensively because they're not self-sustaining by the money they make from the people that use it.
Yeah, and I haven't dug into their finances, but I'm sure you're right, Scott. And they may or may not even have an entry fee for their members. It may just be a membership that's part of, this quality of life for that community. So it's a different economic goal here in Chewelah. And part of this plan is going to include looking at districts because it might make sense for us here.
Okay.
So Larry, just to kind of pull it together for me anyway, step one is to get the input from the public and buy-in basically. And then step two would be expand the footprint so it has more population involved, so it makes it more competitive. And then step three, it sounds to me, would be to, after you identify, and let's say aquatics is first, to get a grant to build the facility. And then step four, which would be tied to that, is some kind of fee structure so the facility is self-supporting so it doesn't move back to the tax base.
That's a pretty good outline, Mike. That's not exactly, but it's close enough that is what we're up to. So this analysis across the board is to find out what are the highest priority items for Chewelah recreationally. And let's say pick the top 5, and aquatics is one of them, and trails is one of them. And let's say that, a future park on the south end of town, whatever. So you got this list that the community says, yeah, this is our top 5. The plan will drill down into each of those with a strategy to accomplish each one of those items, and I'm not prepared today to tell you exactly. First, we got to hear it's called a demand study. We want to hear what this community is demanding for parks and recreation. And then we'll develop a strategy for each one of those. So let's say it's trails. That's a different, generally there's transportation money available for trails. And so it's a very different assignment than if you're going to build an aquatic center. And by the way, that would be a pretty significant challenge for Chewelah to have a rec center that included an aquatic component. But boy, talk about return on your investment. The draw related to that, the school district has been complaining about, and I don't blame them, they've been complaining about, student enrollment decline for quite a while now. And that's one way to turn it around. Give these kids something to do. Parents will move here if, under those right conditions. So it's one way to change the long-term demographics of a small community. We've got lots of natural recreation. If you build in active recreation in a thoughtful, responsible way, the return on your investment can really be high. So especially if there's, if it can be operated with no subsidy, all the better, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what we're up to as far as looking at facilities that make sense for this size of a community in its unique economic setting. And it is unique here. So, but we're rich in recreation, and it's become a big priority. It's part of who we are. It's part of Chewelah's profile. So adding to that makes a lot of sense.
All right. So I guess the question is, do you have any of these meetings coming up for people to make comment? And then added to that is if someone wants to get in touch with you, how they do that?
Yeah, let's start with that first. So pretty easy to find. You could just larryfetter@gmail.com. Just like it sounds.
2 T's.
Would be easy. Yeah, Fetter. And what was your other question, Scott?
Is there any public meetings coming up that you want to plug?
Thank you. We are going to have a number of what we call community engagement opportunities starting this spring, and I'm still working on the strategy now. The task force meets independently just once a month, and that's a separate chunk of work. So the public engagement side of that, we're going to have some town hall meetings. I'm going to be at every farmers market, every group that'll let me come talk to them, whether it be Lions or Kiwanis or book clubs or moms groups or whatever. I'm going to find them. I'm going to go to golf course board meetings and do these interactive engagement where you just really are asking people what they'd like to see recreationally. And then once we gather all that information, we'll assimilate it into the plan, and that'll become the demand study part of the plan. And that's how we're going to get our top 5 out of it.
All right. Is there anything we've missed today that you really wanted to cover or that's popping to your mind, Larry?
Well, I wasn't prepared. It's fine to do this. I wasn't really prepared to drill into the aquatics part of this in a meaningful way to the audience. And so I'd probably, if you're willing to invite me back later, when I've had a chance to just really explore that with our stakeholder group, and then how we might bring that together, because I do think that that's going to be a logical outcome. Aquatics is going to be huge on the list. How are we going to make it happen? So maybe down the road, if you can invite me back, we could put together something that makes a little bit more sense for Chewelah.
All right. Don't be shy. Feel free to invite yourself back. If you want to, and if you want to, come on the show, once a quarter, once every couple months and give us an update. Hey, we'd love that. So.
All right, let's do that. Let's call that the plan, and then I'll work on my video side. So you're talking to a face.
All right. Yeah, some people enjoy that. We've got video going out on our website, YouTube, and Facebook, and it's nice to have a face sometime going along with the voice. Although you did say you had a face for radio.
Just kidding. That's an old joke. Yeah. Hey,
we're used to old jokes.
Hey, Scott, say hello to Sonny for me. That's really interesting.
I will, Larry. Very, very nice having you on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Larry Fetter. Do you have an official title with the city?
Yeah, I am. My organization is called Parks Partners, and I am I'm the official project manager for this park and recreation plan for the city.
All right. And if you want to get in touch with Larry before the next meeting, once again, it's larryfetter@gmail.com. All right. Thank you for being here today, Larry, and come back and keep us informed.
Thank you, gentlemen. I will.
Yep. Thank you.
You bet. All right. One more round of applause for Larry. Waiting for in what I like to call the green room, we should have Catherine. There she is. She knows what a green room is, don't you, Catherine?
I most certainly do.
All right, we've got Catherine Patton online with us now. Catherine is with, of course, the Chewelah Center for the Arts. We teased this a little earlier, and she is here to tell us about a new play. Now, is this play, Catherine, from the Park Avenue Players?
Yes, it is.
All right.
And it will be the first musical that we have done since they stopped doing the melodramas.
Oh.
So we're doing 9 to 5. I don't know if I'm on the air. I don't know if my video is working. It was.
It isn't, but you are on the air with us.
You're on the air, yeah.
Okay. So we're doing 9 to 5, which was written, music and lyrics were written by Dolly Parton. Not just the 9 to 5 song that everybody knows, but the entire play was written by Dolly Parton.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't either. Huh.
And it's fabulous. I directed this play 10 years ago in Owensboro, Kentucky. And the play is just as funny now as it was then. It's timing very well. It's aging quite well. What I need, and my needs are huge. I need about 20 people in my show.
Wow.
And that's just in my show. And I need a good 15 working with the show. in addition to the people I've already said yes to me. So I need everybody to just jump on this. We want this to be highly successful. We want it to be a phenomenal show. It is so funny. We all saw the movie pretty much with Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda and Dolly, of course. Yep. And there's a scene in there where the ladies are stoned as bats, and it's just absolutely hilarious. I did it with 3 women who had never smoked marijuana before. And so they got drunk one night at home all together, and they videotaped it for me. And they said, "Is it, you want something like this?" And I said, "Well, if you can do that sober." Yeah, we need you to be sober, so. But it's a fun show. So I need people I need stage managers on either side. We're going to have some new equipment. We've just started miking everyone. We just finished Love, Lies, and the Doctor's Dilemma, and we had mics on everyone so we could actually run the heating system so nobody got cold. Everyone could hear. So
that's wonderful, because that was one of the problems with that room sometimes. If somebody had a softer voice, and like me, I'm deaf in one ear, I'd have to sit in my chair sideways. That's amazing. Everybody's mic. That's so cool.
Well, and we got such wonderful response from it, Scott. I mean, everybody was like, "Oh, this is wonderful." The sound was so well balanced. Jay Andrews is our sound guy, and he just had everything perfectly balanced. It was wonderful. With this production, the audience isn't going to notice what we're doing, except that everything will run quite smoothly. But we are all going to have headsets. We'll have headsets between the lights and sound and the stage managers and the director. So we'll have communication, so everybody will know what's going on all the time. This is a big deal. This is a big show.
Step up in production, isn't it?
It is big production. Now, in the movie, you all remember that they flew Mr. Hart, the boss. They put him on a garage door opener and pulled him up into the air. Well, we're not doing that. My pulley system broke. Nobody wanted to actually get up there. So we are going to change that a little bit, and we're using a shock collar. So we will have a trained dog on stage. Yep. So it's going to be a lot different than what anybody's ever experienced before.
How fun.
And I'm also going to be having celebrities. Each night there'll be a different city celebrity with a certain role for the detective. And I want to personally invite you, Mike, to be the detective one night out of the 6. So you don't have to give me an answer right now, but it's a very small part. There's like 10 or 11 lines. You can even carry a clipboard. I don't care if you memorized or not. But I did this before. I had our maestro from the symphony. I had the mayor. We had some the county judge, which was like the county mayor thing where I was from. So it was a lot of fun. The audience absolutely loved it. They never knew which night who was going to do with the role. And so we just announced them and thanked them, each night. And so Mike, it's Scott, you'd be getting an invitation too if you were here, honey.
You could put a TV on the stage. I could do it.
Okay, well, there you go.
No, I think this would be really good for Mike.
I do too.
Uh-huh.
Just a fedora and a trench coat. You look awesome.
Yeah. I'll say yes for him.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
So we need lots of singers. Not everybody has to sing. Not everybody has to dance. Sometimes I just need people walking across the stage or people pushing the sets around. The show never stops. The set is moved to music in front of everybody whenever we do anything. The music, of course, is phenomenal. So I just need a lot of people. I need some help with this. And if you're interested, we've been putting things on Facebook. I'm just going to give you my phone number. I'll put it out there to the world. I don't care who calls me about this. My landline phone number is 509-935-0409. And you can leave a voicemail. I try to remember to look at it at least once a day. If you want to text me, you can use my cell phone number, and that is area code 270-314-5555. 1288. Oh, thank you for putting that up. Thank you.
You bet.
And I'm happy to answer any questions about the audition process, about what we need. If you don't want to be on stage, I need people with costuming, props, someone with lights. Bob Stevens does a wonderful job with lights, but I'm really trying to hoping he's going to audition. So I need somebody. Wouldn't he be awesome? So we need somebody to actually work the light board, which we'll teach you how to do. You know, the lights will all be set up. You just have to work the controls, turn them on and off and so on. It's a great skill to learn. We'll teach you everything you need to know. I need help with costumes. The ladies that are the leads in the show have lots of costume changes. I need help with that. People have got a quick costume change, just all kinds of things. So if you ever wanted to be involved with the theater, this is the perfect opportunity for you to jump in, and we'll get all the help that you need. We have become, and both of you know this, every time you do a show, there's a new family that's built. We just finished Love, Lies, and The Doctor's Dilemma, and we had so much adversity. We had COVID. Someone had to drop out because their illness. When Patty West came in at the last minute and learned her lines in like 2 weeks, she was amazing. And so, but you become a family, and you support each other. You love one another. You're vulnerable with one another, because acting or just having fun is vulnerable. You know, you open yourself up to ridicule when you act. You open yourself up for people not liking what you do and so on. But we don't care. We have a good time, and we support one another. And if we're doing a bad job, somebody say, you know what, try this. You know, with the directors, the directors in charge, of course, the directors say, you know, try this. And you get a totally different bend on it, and you learn something new, and you're like, oh my gosh. And so you grow through your emotions, through your empathy, and so on and so forth. There's just so much to theater and to art alone.
I pushed my kids in school into theater because I did it, and what I got from it was literally life-changing. It affected me in so many different ways. I had a brilliant drama teacher. She's passed away now here in Chewelah, Sherry Frizzell, and she had the same passion, I think, for theater as Janet McLaughlin has. Janet might have even a little more, because Janet's pretty passionate about theater. But it was such a life-changing event. I took it every year in high school and then in college, and I was an unhealthy child, so I wasn't into sports. And that was where, so I don't know if the same thing comes from being in sports, but there is nothing like the feeling you get after the show's over. And then, as you know, I'm sure you'll quantify this too, and then the last night, the final show, it's a high. It's a natural high, and I have literally never felt anything like it in my life. It's one of the best feelings you can ever experience. So if you've ever thought, I'd like to be in a play, Mike, go do it. Go do it. It's amazing. It's you were telling me about stuff, and I was starting to get goosebumps.
Well, I couldn't have put it better myself, Scott, because you're absolutely right. It can be very life-changing. Plus, we have so many new people in this community. It's amazing to me. I don't know where people are working, but everybody and their brother seems to be moving to Chewelah. I see things on Facebook all the time, looking for rental property. My husband and I are moving up there. You know, we're bringing our kids in. What's to do, you know, for the kids and so on and so forth. If you're new to Chewelah, what a perfect way to get to know people.
Yes.
If you're new to Chewelah, come in. We welcome everybody. We don't care how old you are, what color you are, what your religion is, what your politics are. We don't care. We want you to come in and be part of this group of creativity and art to share this with Chewelah, because it is fun, Mike. So I'm sure I'll be seeing you on stage.
What a great way to make 35 new friends.
Yeah, there you go. Or maybe 33. He probably knows a few of them.
Okay. All right.
So our show is going to be May 12th, 13th, and 14th, and the 19th, 20th, and 21st of May. We have traditionally done it the last 2 weekends of May, including Memorial Day, but that had to do with car shows and years ago and so on. So because of Memorial Day, we've decided to up it a week. So we're not going to be doing it on Memorial Day this week or this year, and probably ever, unless something else, changes that we should. So we've got 9 weeks to put this huge show on, which is plenty of time. Well, I say plenty. It's never plenty of time. You always want another day.
Winter tryouts. Winter tryouts.
Our auditions are March 6th and 7th at 7 p.m. at the Chihuahua Center for the Arts. And we asked people to bring a song, about 16 bars of something that's close to a song that would be in the show. So if you're not familiar with the show, just bring any Broadway tune. If you're a belter, if you're somebody that knows how to belt a song, bring me one where you can belt. If you have a nice, quiet, easy voice and soft ballady, country, whatever you've got, bring me something. We are going to be teaching a song or two from the show, as well as doing a little bit of choreography to see how people move. And of course, reading. You'll be doing a cold reading from the show. So the only thing they have to do is bring a song, and they can do it a cappella. They can bring a flash drive. They can, if there's karaoke on YouTube, we can get that, because Jay's going to come and help us with our auditions in case somebody needs that. So I got to say, I'm so proud of the PACA board and the board for the Park Avenue Players. Park Avenue Players board has given me just carte blanche. I said, guys, this is a huge show, and I don't know if we'll make money on this or not. My fingers are crossed, that will come out $100 or something. But we're spending some money on this show, and it's going to be nice, a good show to watch. But it's going to be even more fun to be in it, because you have all the camaraderie. We're also looking to pair with Flowery Trail Cafe in catering a brunch for us on Mother's Day, because we have our productions on Mother's Day, on one of our last productions. So we're looking to do a brunch through Flowery Trail Cafe. And so instead of a dinner theater, we'll have a brunch theater. And then we'll have a special meal for all the people in the show after we strike the set. So that Mother's Day, we'll have a special meal for them and their families too. So trying to take care of everybody on Mother's Day, then you can still be in the show and you can still celebrate.
All right, I have a suggestion for you to make more money on the show.
Okay, yeah.
All right. And that would be to raise ticket prices, because your ticket prices for your shows at the Chihuahua Center for the Arts are too cheap. And nobody throw tomatoes at me. They are. I came for my visit, and I had tickets to the show. You very nicely, had sent me an email about that. And when the show got moved back, and $15, that was what your last tickets were. I don't know if you were going to charge a little more for the show, but you should. I think, and Mike, I think Mike hopefully will agree with me. I think $20, $25 is fair. I would have even paid $30 to see your last show. I'm just saying that. And I know you want to keep prices low so everybody in the community can come, but ticket prices for things are astronomical now. Even a $30 ticket to see a play, and if people go, "Oh gosh, Scott, that's too much," look what you're supporting. You're supporting this wonderful theater that we've got in Chihuahua that we need to keep going. So that's my suggestion to all you guys, is raise the ticket prices a little bit.
Well, we're going to.
Good.
I'm tickled to death. We are going to. Janet does all of her musicals and so on at $20, and they're more expensive, to purchase the rights and so on and so forth. But we're going to go even further than that. We are doing $20 before you come, but $25 at the door.
There you go. Yeah.
We have an awful lot of people who wait until the last minute, and that's fine. But if you're going to wait till the last minute, you're going to pay a little bit more, because we are expecting to sell out every night.
Sure. Well, and you got to educate people sometimes too on how they, because just from doing events in Chihuahua, people are notorious for not buying their tickets in advance. I can't tell you, when I used to do the mini concerts at the radio station, how many shows I sat there just chewing my fingernails off, because I only had 60 seats in the first place, and I'd only sold 30 tickets, thinking, and I've got people coming in from around the region to play, and I want to, even though it's a small room, you want a full crowd. Well, it always filled up, but I'd almost have a heart attack.
I know. I understand.
Until you get there. Wow. So buy your tickets in advance.
We had like 11 tickets sold online for one of our nights, but we were bringing in chairs one of our nights for Love Lies and Doctors Love. You know, people wait until, and that's fine. But if you're going to do that, you're just going to pay a little bit more, and that's okay.
That's right.
You know.
All right, and I imagine from Janet doing those singer series, you've got your eyes already on some very talented singers, because I'm amazed at some of the singing voices in Chihuahua. One of the huge ones that most impressed, Jessica Setti. I was like, when I heard her sing, I had never heard her sing before. I was like, oh my God.
She is absolutely one of the best singers around. Her control of her voice, the emotion in her voice is outstanding. Unfortunately, she is not going to audition because her kids are just swamped busy in May. And that's a problem with, you know, that I've got it. There's
Right.
another, Melissa, Carey, and Clint were talking about auditioning, but they're just so busy with their kids. They got a senior, you know, and so there's just so much
Sure.
going on that time of year. And I understand that's quite a loss for us, you know, in the community, not to be able to see them perform in this show, because this, you know, they would shine. All three of them would shine in this show.
Definitely.
But, you know, people have their lives and you have your priorities. Mine is 9 to 5 right now, but I don't have kids in high school. So I don't, you know, I'm a little bit different. So hopefully I'll have the people that I need to show up. I need men. So all you men out there, they're listening,
Mike.
come and audition. And everybody has to try out. We don't pre-select anybody for anything. So there's no one is cast, and no one will be cast until after the auditions are totally over. So we do, you know, as a community theater, we feel that that's the only fair thing to do, that everybody auditions. Now, if I didn't get enough people to audition, I may call some people and ask them to audition, but I'm expecting that we're going to have a really big turnout. I am making 30 copies of the audition form in the conflict calendar. I'm expecting people to turn out. My fingers are crossed. I'm hoping that I'm correct.
All right.
You know, Catherine, if you could send me a copy of that audition form, then I'll get it in the Creative District newsletter.
Okay.
And then I also do the communication to the golf course community.
There you go.
And then I would include it with that.
I will. And I'll also send you a copy of the poster that's got all the information on it, when to do it.
All right.
Yeah. Do you have my email?
I do not.
It's Mike, David, Boy, Edward, Nancy, Tom, Zebra.
Oh, sorry. I was writing the names out. I'm sorry. I was trying to write the words.
Okay.
Okay. One more time, please.
Okay. It's MDBENTZ 1950 at gmail.com.
Okay.
I like Larry's better. This was so much easier, Mike.
Well, mine's got my birth date in it, so everybody knows. But I expect a birthday card from everybody who has my email address.
Oh, no, Catherine, you need to put your name in there somewhere. I had to search and search to find your email address, and because it wasn't coming up with your name.
Oh,
but I found
okay.
I went back to your last interview. All right, we better wrap this up here. Park Avenue Players, a number to get in touch with Catherine if you need more information, 509-935-0409, 935-0409. And Catherine, you said tryouts are March 6th and 7th, and what was the time again?
7 p.m. at the Chihuahua Center for the Arts.
All right. Did we miss anything you want to throw out as we wrap up the show?
No, the community has been so very generous with their time and their money, and I'm asking them to be even more so with their time right now. I don't need their money right now. The PACA does. No, don't, you know, but 9 to 5, we're good to go. But I need your time, and I need your talent, and I hope that everyone will come. And Mike, I look forward to seeing you on stage in May sometime. Everybody does, I'm sure.
All right, and one more little plug. People don't really realize about the royalties that go along with performing plays, and it's expensive, and playing music. It's just like the radio station having to deal with all of our royalties. They have royalties they have to pay. When you're going to our Chihuahua Center for the Arts and you've got your tickets, when you're there, you know, shove some money in a jar if you can afford it too. Keep our Chihuahua Center for the Arts alive.
Thank you.
All right. And there you go. Catherine Patton from the Park Avenue Players and the Chihuahua Center for the Arts. Thank you for your time today, Catherine, and joining us.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And thank you, Mike.
You bet.
You bet.
Have a great day.
You too.
All right, and we are wrapping up our show for today. We ran a little long, so a big thank you, Mr. Mike Bentz, for being here on a Wednesday again. Right.
No problem. Well, it's always enjoyable, Scott.
All right. Tomorrow on the show, I'm joined by Chuck Ritchie and Alan Milani. It's three guys being dumb. We call it Three Amigos Thursday. Hope you can beat it. Have a great day. Keep on listening to Northern Lights Public Radio. We are KCHW 102.7. Peace out, Mike.
Ah.